What was your most unforgettable runaway from home attempt? When I was 12, I packed my school backpack with peanut butter crackers, a water bottle, and $47 from my piggy bank. My parents had been screaming about money all week, and that morning I heard my mom crying on the phone, saying she didn't know how we'd make rent. I decided they had one less mouth to worry about. I snuck out at 5 in the morning while they were still asleep. Our town had a Greyhound station 3 miles away, and I jogged the whole distance. My plan was simple: buy a ticket to anywhere far enough that they wouldn't find me, but close enough that $47 would get me there. The station was mostly empty except for a maintenance guy mopping floors and one woman reading a newspaper. I walked up to the counter trying to look older than I was. The clerk barely looked up when I asked for a one-way ticket. She told me the earliest bus to Springfield was $28. Perfect. But then she asked for ID. I told her I forgot it at home. She sighed and said anyone under 16 needed a parent's signature. I started backing away, but that's when the woman with the newspaper stood up. She walked over and told the clerk I was with her nephew, and she'd handle the paperwork. The clerk just shrugged and printed my ticket. The woman paid for hers and gestured for me to follow her outside. She lit a cigarette and asked where I was really going. I told her away from home. She nodded and said she understood. On the bus, she sat across from me and introduced herself as Carol. She bought me a soda at our first stop and shared her pretzels. After an hour of riding in silence, I finally asked why she helped me. She said because nobody helped her when she was my age trying to escape. When we reached Springfield, Carol walked me to a payphone outside the station. She handed me a quarter and told me to call home. I said they probably hadn't even noticed I was gone yet. She smiled sadly and said they had, and they were probably scared. I dialed our number and Mom answered on the first ring. She was sobbing before I even said hello. She begged me to tell her where I was and promised they'd figure everything out. Dad got on the phone too, and I could hear him crying, which scared me more than anything because he never cried. They drove 2 hours to get me. When they arrived, Carol was still there, smoking another cigarette by the station bench. She watched them hug me and gave them a small nod before disappearing back inside. In the car, my parents didn't lecture me. Mom just held my hand while Dad drove. They explained that the money problems were adult problems, not mine to solve by running away. They said they'd been so focused on stress that they forgot to protect me from their worry. That night, Dad quit his pride and took a job at his friend's construction company. Mom started watching our neighbors' kids after school for extra money. Things got better slowly, but they got better. I never saw Carol again, but sometimes I wonder if she was real or just appeared when a scared kid needed someone to believe running away might be the answer. Either way, I learned that sometimes the bravest thing isn't leaving, but staying to see if the people who love you can find a way to make it work. 20 years later, I still have that Greyhound ticket stub. It reminds me that home isn't perfect, but it's where people fight for you even when they're fighting with each other.